Hi, thank you for tuning in. I'm Brad Hurst. This video is going to be a little bit different. It's a very short video, it's about 13 minutes or so. And we're going to be talking about the importance of developing a Christian worldview and how that played a major role in the issue of confronting the doctrine of Antichrist. If you like this video, please subscribe. Thank you.
Daniel 2:39. And after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee, and another third kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over all the earth. And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise. Chapter 7, verse 7. After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. Verse 19. Then I would know the truth of the fourth beast, which was diverse from all the others, exceeding dreadful, whose teeth were of iron, and his nails of brass, which devoured, brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with his feet. Again, chapter 2, verse 40. For as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise. 7:7. And stamped the residue with the feet of it. 7:8. And stamped the residue with his feet. The problem with associating the legs of iron and the fourth beast with a Roman Empire is that Rome never conquered Persia, which at the time was known as Parthia. They tried to do it under Trajan and Hadrian, but failed. This should end any consideration of a Roman paradigm. We are told in Daniel 2 that the empire of brass will bear rule over all of the earth. Verse 35 gives us the context when the rock fills the whole earth. In both cases, the known world cannot be in view here. It has to be the entire planet. But if the Greco-Roman period fell and was replaced by the iron of Islam, how can it go on to bear rule over the whole earth? The answer is quite simple when we understand what brass is and look at history. Brass is a metal alloy that is made up of varying percentages of up to 40% zinc. It is very malleable and typically will not break when bent or beat into different forms. It is relatively strong and can resist a lot of heat. Unlike steel that hardens every time it is bent, brass maintains its original properties no matter how often it is remolded. Its origins in the Middle East are from Syria and eastern Turkey, dating back to about the time of the flood. The word for nails is tefer, a fingernail, also a hoof or claw, nail. Nail, noun, if the word was originally applied to a claw or talon. The primary sense may be to catch, or it may be to shoot. the claw or talon of a fowl or another animal. Noah Webster, 1828. The beast appears to have brass nails. Nearly all land animals have nails/claws. They serve a variety of purposes, one of which enables the animal to grab a hold of and hold onto things. They can also be used as weapons to scratch, gouge, and tear. Even in humans, they help us to maintain our grip, even though they are nails. Hence, the brass nails of the beast are somehow descriptive of the grip or hold the beast can exercise so it can devour its prey. Whether they be nails or claws, the intent is the same. It is to lay hold and to hold on to. One of the reasons why we have been looking at history is to enable us to get our bearings. In this study, we have traced a worldview that originated in Babylon, was picked up by the Jews during the exile, furthered during the Persian period, and then adapted and reinvented by the Greeks, through whom every place in the modern world has been impacted. That worldview can be summarized as thus. 1. Everything originates from chaos. 2. God, if there is such a thing, cannot be known, and revelation from him is not possible. 3. Knowledge is the dominion of the initiated, and thus knowledge is not possible for the common person. 4. Rules, morals, and ethics only restrain the ignorant. 5. To help the less fortunate is to impede them in their forward motion toward ultimately becoming one of the initiated. 6. Eventually, all will be reconciled to the chaos. Like the brass of Daniel 2, Hellenism/Greek philosophy can be remolded into different forms without breaking, whether it be caste systems, Eastern mystic thought, hello Manny, communism/socialism, secular humanism, totalitarianism, psychology. Hence, Hellenism can take many forms. Once Hellenism/Greek thought takes hold, it does not let go until society completely collapses and is vulnerable to be consumed by another system altogether. That is why the beast in Daniel 7 is said to have brass nails. At first, this seems odd, but when understood in the context of Hellenism/Greek philosophy, it makes perfect sense. Now the issue begins to clear up. Although the actual geopolitical Greco-Roman Empire fell, the philosophy that was the foundation continued to go forth and conquer. Hellenism became Platonism. Platonism became Gnosticism. Gnosticism became Arianism. Arianism moved east where it was picked up by the Arabs. The Arabs would then begin to out-Greek the Greeks. Many molded things even further, and the thinking was found its way as far as eastern China. The Sasanian Empire of Persia fell, and a new place for Greek thought and development would be built, Baghdad. The spirit of Antichrist that began in Babylon and was present when John wrote 1 John would continue all the way till the end, producing lawlessness and a message that denies the Father and the Son. Let's pause for a moment and step back to our last video. As Greek learning and thought continued to develop in Baghdad, it would go on to take a new name, Islam. With the influx of literature into Baghdad, a new literary work of disconnected, incoherent statements was put together. They came from all lands and transcended many years. Today, it is known as the Quran. Only the truly spiritual, initiated, can understand and speak authoritatively on it. The Turks would go on to out-Islam, that is Greek, the Arabs. In 1453 AD, the seat of Sunni Islam, Greek philosophy, would be transferred back to Greece, Turkey, under the Ottoman Empire. The seat of Sunni Islam was now Constantinople. The Persians would make an adjustment and develop Shia, Greek philosophy, Islam. Both would now seek to spread Islam first by persuasion and second by the sword. Eventually, the sword became the only means. Where they could not gain the military victory, they would insert division and chaos to weaken an opponent from within, then move against their enemies. Although Western Europe would remain essentially protected from Islam, a movement would begin that would put it at risk. The movement was the Renaissance. Although the Catholic Church stood fast on the Trinity and the deity of Christ, they failed to develop a distinguished Christian worldview. Instead, they developed a worldview of hierarchy, the initiated, of who could read, know, and teach the scriptures. Because of the Mongol invasions of Central Asia in 1258, a trade route between Europe and the East was established. It was called the Silk Road. This would put Europe in contact with the Turks, Arabs, and Persia, and a renewed interest in the Greek classics philosophy was kindled. The most prominent theologian of the Catholic Church then and now was Thomas Aquinas, 1225 through 1274. He would essentially write what we know today as Catholic dogma. The Greek classics would play a huge role in the development of his thinking. Despite his Trinitarian positions, it is quite likely that the work of Aquinas would have led much of Europe back to the Arian position. By processing the scriptures through a Greek worldview, the camel's nose was under the tent. However, a more powerful force would soon develop. John Wycliffe would undertake the task of translating the Bible into the common language. With the fall of Constantinople in 1453 and the flight of the Greek-speaking Christians to Italy, the next phase of what Wycliffe had started would commence. With Greek text in hand, people in the West would set out to translate the Bible into the common tongue. Ironically, a new language was emerging, and it would go on to be molded around the Bible. That language is English. With the reintroduction of apostolic Christianity into Western Europe, a movement would begin that would permanently alter the theological, political, geopolitical landscape. The Reformation. On October 31st, 1517, Luther would post his 95 Theses. In 1525, William Tyndale completed and printed his English Bible. In 1536, Calvin would publish the Institutes of the Christian Religion. For the first time since the apostolic period, a distinctly Christian worldview was beginning to emerge. Calvin's Institutes would go on to lay the foundations for the greatest civilizations the world would ever see. Tyndale's Bible would lay the foundation for getting the Bible into every language and the missionary movements to follow. The West would not only be protected from Islam for hundreds of years into the future, the great missionary movements to come out of the Reformation would thwart it in many places of Africa and the East. A new worldview that was distinctly biblical with no Hellenistic thinking had emerged. Ultimately, a mortal wound would be delivered and Islam would appear to die altogether as a force to be reckoned with. A new civilization was emerging. It would go on to produce countries so powerful that Islam simply could not keep up. One country in particular would arise and all but wipe Islam out as a political force altogether.
Well, folks, with regard to this video, that's it. I've been told by several people that the information in this series is pretty powerful. Some have gone on to say that it's so powerful that they begin to speculate that there are two antichrists. One to fit their Roman paradigm in Europe, and the other one to fit what we see in history in the Middle East. Folks, let's not do that. Let's let our thinking be adjusted by the scriptures and not adjust the scriptures based upon some paradigm that we have that doesn't fit. Thank you for your time, and if you like this video, please subscribe. Good day.